Well, from political exhaustion, screaming over board games, settling scores with dance-offs, and taking life advice from a giant banana, the Second City's 80th Mainstage Review, Party Today, Panic Tomorrow, covers it all. Joining us tonight is cast member Anne Purnell. Welcome to What She Said.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, if anyone's ever gone to a Second City show and thought, I want to do that, the Second City Training Center offers comedy classes for all ages, levels of interest, and we've heard people say comedy is a problem-solving tool. What do you think about that?
I absolutely agree. It's the way to get a message, usually political or otherwise, across to a group of people who may or may not be receptive to that idea, but everyone's receptive to laughter. People's guards are down when they are laughing. They're not thinking when they're laughing. They're just reacting. And so when you use comedy, you really catch people off guard. And while they may be laughing at your jokes, subconsciously they are taking in what you're saying. And I think that's the best and the easiest non-defensive way to get your point across when you're making light of it, because every problem is really relatable when you boil it down to its basic thing, which is people are usually scared. If there's a problem, people get frightened, and the best way to sort of make people feel at ease is through laughter.
Well, it makes sense because instead of being defensive, they're just softening their stance a little bit, just opening up a little bit.
Exactly. And there's the beautiful
It's not so adversarial.
Exactly. The beautiful thing about comedy is that you can sneak a very hard-hitting POV and a very bold statement of your opinion in a lot of jokes, and people won't remember necessarily this very, at times, radical statement that you're making, but they will remember how they felt when they were watching you.
Now, Anne, from what I understand, the classes can help people transition the basic principles of improv into their everyday life. What are those principles, and how do you transition it in?
At Second City, the biggest thing we like to teach is the idea of yes and that's the very basis for all performing, really, when you're doing improvising. And it's the idea of accepting every offer that is given to you. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things that you can do in your life, sort of not be so afraid of taking risks or scary things like that, and just saying yes to the things that come up, and you never know what will happen.
So it's not just comedy classes, though. There's other things like diversity. What's the diversity class?
Yes, at Second City, it is a comedy program, definitely, but it is specifically catered towards diverse voices, and it's called the Bob Curry program, the Bob Curry Fellowship, and I was part of it in its first year, and it's a wonderful program that is specifically dedicated to any performer, any comedian, regardless of their background, to give them a taste of what it's like to work at Second City. Because Second City is one of the few major theaters in Toronto that's specifically for comedy and specifically for improv, it's hard to find improvisers, period. Because what we do is, it's very difficult. But usually diverse voices, and that's including women, that's including people of color, that's including queer voices, they often get left out because they don't see themselves reflected on the stage that they see in Toronto.
Are women really? Are we considered part of the diversity program now?
Well, yeah, if you're a woman of color, absolutely.
Woman of color,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This particular program is, but I very much am a huge advocate for women in comedy because we still are very much underrepresented. Every 3 years, there's an article about how we are not funny, and it is so exhausting. So for me, while women are perhaps more represented, there is still a major underrepresentation in all of media and all of comedy in general.
So give us an example of an improv exercise one may encounter. We're game, aren't we, Christine?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. One of the ones that I love to do is, it's just the most basic thing, and you would make a claim. You were saying that you were doing an action like, I am going on a trip, and the person next to you will have to say yes and then add their own idea to that. And again, it goes back to that idea of yes and, which is taking your idea, accepting it, and building from that. And I think so much of life is collaboration, and sometimes a lot of people have a hard time playing with others, and just saying the words yes and can make everyone feel so included, because no one's ideas are getting shut down. And I think in the world now, we can afford a little bit more positivity.
Yeah. So if I said, I'm going glamping next week.
Yes, and I'm jealous.
Yes, and I'm going to give money so that you can go too.
Yes, and I'm going to say thank you very much to you.
Yes, but I'm not going to let either of you in my tent.
See, that's saying no. The word "but" is a secret way of saying no because it
Right.
stopped the action
Yep.
and it stopped including what everyone could do.
Yes,
Okay.
and that will be really crowded.
Yes,
Yes, and John won't like that.
Yes, and you
I'm
never
gonna
know.
kick you out.
You never know what John may like.
And then it just turns into a news story about this woman walking through the woods alone.
So let me ask, if somebody wanted to try it out before they commit to a class, can people do that?
Absolutely, they have drop-ins.
It says we have added drop-in classes on the weekends for those looking to try out what we do before committing to a class.
Yeah, so classes are typically 6 to 8 weeks, but these drop-in classes are non-committal. You can come in as many times as you want, and they're a real nice crash course into what it is like to work with other people in improv.
And they're $15 a person. That's not bad.
And you work on things like basic joke structure. I never even knew there was a basic joke structure.
I feel like I think you do know what it is, but you just don't know that it's called joke structure.
Oh.
It's just the whole idea of something like a setup and then a punchline. You know, like that's what we do on an everyday level. Are jokes, right? When we're talking with our friends, you're just setting them up so that they can say something funny, and that is joke structure.
The straight man and the
Exactly.
Right.
So if someone were to go, is there any performance opportunities that
Absolutely.
would result from this?
Absolutely. Through all of the levels, not in the drop-ins necessarily, but in the levels A through E, I do believe every single class will end in at least a show, if they don't have a couple of shows throughout the actual classes themselves. So there's always opportunity for stage time, because if you are interested in performing, there's no better way to learn how to do that than actually getting on stage. You can't replicate what that's like in a class environment. You actually have to just do it yourself.
So, as a graduate of the Second City Conservatory program and your third show
Yes.
on the main stage,
Yes.
what's one of the biggest things you have learned through comedy?
It's that you can reach a lot more people by disarming them through kindness, through love, through jokes. People are so willing to not hear what you're saying because they already think it's going to disagree with their own beliefs. But typically when someone walks into a comedy show, they just want to laugh. They don't think they're going to learn, but they do. And I think that's invaluable. And it's a way for me to reach other people that I would never get to reach because I have this beautiful platform and I get to perform 8 shows a week on it with my other cast members. And we see people who we would never encounter in real life and who would never encounter us. And maybe we can change their mind. Maybe they walk away saying, oh, those ladies were funny, or, oh, that Filipino girl was very funny. And we've changed them ever so slightly. And I think in life, you can only do those little changes before you can get to anything big and meaningful and significant.
So where is the training center for anyone who's listening?
That is located at 99 Blue Jay Way, at the corner of Mercer and Blue Jay Way, just at King and Mercer, basically.
Yeah, it's up on the
And
third
the classes are...
Every single day, I believe.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, I don't know when the
Are
terms start,
Are
but
they in the evenings?
they are in the evenings. We have some for during the weekends, during the days. We have something for everyone. If you've got a 9 to 5er, we'll have you come in at 6 o'clock, and then the classes there are at night and at the day, and there's also teen classes as well.
Excellent. So, the website is secondcity.com and then /TC for the
That's
training
right.
center. That's pretty easy.
That's right.
Well, Anne Purnell, thank you so much for joining us tonight and making us smile.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is what she said. Stay with us.